This is ENT Hooligans, your entertainment hub.
What's going on, hooligans? It's your boy, Baby Moy, representing the channel as always. And this afternoon, I bring to you another episode of what I like to call Endless Possibilities, where we talk about all things pertaining to life and talk to all people from different walks of life. And to say the least, and again, the operative phrase here is to say the least, we have a winner with us here, folks. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself, but before he does that, I just want to remind you guys to please thumbs up, subscribe, like the videos, y'all know what the deal is, and make sure to hit that bell so that way you guys could always be notified as towards what us here at ENT Hooligans are doing, so that way you guys will not be lost in the shuffle. But without further ado, I'm gonna let this individual introduce himself, and maybe if he feels like he could tell you guys a little bit about himself, because what better way for people to learn about other individuals, right? So here he is, folks.
Hey Mo, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, hooligans. My name is Terry Murphy, and I was born, raised, and still live on Long Island here in New York. And I lost my sight at the age of 26. I'm now 51 years old. I lost it due to diabetic retinopathy. And since then, I've gone back to school and earned my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and I am pursuing my doctorate right now at Columbia University. I also happen to teach 2 courses at a local university here on Long Island, and that's where I stand now. I am single, and right now I just sold my house recently, so I am living at my brother's house and looking for a house or apartment to buy, and right now I'm also looking for. I'm not sure if I'm going to work again or not, but if I can find something in teaching, then I'm going to go back to teaching. If not, I'm going to retire and ride off into the sunset. So that's kind of a brief introduction right there.
Right off into the sunset. That's a sad ending, kind of, don't you think? Kind of a Yeller approach.
No, I mean, yeah, I've worked all my life, and so to finally, I don't know how bored I'll be. That's my fear. If I don't get another job, I'll have to do something, whether it's volunteer work or I don't know, start a podcast or something like that. Something to keep me busy and out of trouble. Because I just don't know. Already, I've been out of teaching for a month now. This semester ended about a month ago, and I'm already, cabin fever is already setting in. It's like I need to find something to do, because it's just, I don't like not being active.
It's understandable. I mean, everybody likes to, in some way, shape, or form, contribute to this thing we call life, right? So I get it how sometimes we could have tendencies to feel as though we're going nowhere at a given particular moment in time. And, that feeling of, man, it's stagnant here. It ain't cool, because you do want to feel that you're useful in life. So
Definitely.
would you mind telling the audience a little bit about your teaching profession, what it was that you taught?
Yeah, I taught, my bachelor's degree is in health education. My master's degree is in human sexuality education from New York University.
I told you guys he was a winner.
Yeah, so I've taught up to as many as 3 courses in human sexuality. I taught at 2 different universities at one time, and then I'm sure many of you are aware of the income limits you can make with Social Security. So I actually had to quit one job to bring my monthly income down to accessible level. To get it approved to continue to get Social Security. So I left one university and just stayed with the second one, where I've been teaching up until this a month ago, 2 courses in sexuality.
How, and I think this is a question that maybe you're asked a lot, maybe you're not, but I'm gonna ask it here. How are you usually approached when, not just in terms of I teach sexuality, but more so the perspective of I am someone who's visually impaired and I'm a professor at set university. How is that usually met?
When people hear my my full story and what I've gone through to get where I am. I've had students come up to me at the end of the semester, telling me, that I'm an inspiration, or they wish they had the strength that I have, and things like that. So it's always good to hear. When people hear that I'm a professor, most of the times their first question is, how do you do it? Like how do you know if the kids are behaving, or how do you actually present your class? And a lot of it is models. I use a PowerPoint presentation in class, and I have anatomically correct models that I use to teach the anatomy. I have a whole birth control kit that I use to teach birth control. So I use whatever means I can to be able to teach the classes.
So to all the freaky people out there, remember, he'll send you models, either you're male or female. He'll accommodate you. Hit this guy up. He's got all the goods.
Yeah, whatever you need.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But go on, brother. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say, because a lot of people, when I decided to go into sexuality, I came home and told my mom and dad I'm going to New York University, and they're like, "Oh, we're so proud of you. That's a great university. It's a good college." And I said, "Then I'm going to be studying human sexuality." Like, what? They both sat down and started wiping the sweat off their brow. I was like, okay. So it was, it was, and then my poor mom, as many of you know, sometimes you have to hire readers to read articles, and here was, at that time, my mom was in her 60s, reading me articles about sexuality onto a cassette tape so that I could listen to it. So that was not. How
was that experience? I mean, you're listening to your own mom reading these very enticing and provocative things of nature.
Yeah. No, my mom. She was a great lady, and she did it. I mean, a lot of times I had problems getting readers, and last minute she would pull out a cassette tape and read the article and send me off on my way. So it was kind of embarrassing to hear some of the terms coming out of my mom's mouth, but but it all became a joke afterwards. We always joked around about it afterwards. So she was a cool mom, and she definitely she put up a lot of junk with me going to school for sexuality. That's for sure.
Now, for humor's sake, now I want you guys out there in YouTube land, I want you to picture this. Picture either one of your spouses reading you such terms. So what I want you to do here, Professor, is kind of give us a little bit of the terms which your mom had to blurt out to you in order for you to, learn your craft and execute it as well as you have now.
Pre-cum, ejaculation, cunnilingus, fellatio, and of course there's all the anatomy, so she'd have to talk about the penis and vagina and labia and clitoris, and there's a few words there that she would have to fellatio or cunnilingus. Let's do cunnilingus. She'd be like, it's cunnilingu. She had to say it out loud 14 times to figure out what it was, and so it was It was funny, but again, she was a sport about it, and she knew that that I needed to have it done, and she she did all right with it.
That's
So,
good, man. See, and it got you to where you're at now. So
oh, definitely, yeah, could not have done it with the support of family and friends. I mean, that's my family especially. I'm the youngest of five boys, so we had no sisters. I have three sisters-in-law now, but I was youngest of five, and you know, without my family and my sister-in-laws, just different help that they gave me along the way, allowed me to get to where I am right now.
I'm
So
into that, brother.
yeah,
Absolutely good stuff.
very blessed.
That's right. And blessings are something that a lot of times we overlook them. And blessings, I believe, could come in forms of people and just situations in life in itself are blessings, man. So speaking of that, anything that you recall that was influential in your growing up?
Um, I mean, in terms of sexuality or just
No,
in
and just in
general?
terms
In general.
of you in general.
A lot of it was my parents for sure. My mom and dad had old fashioned values. Very. My dad believed in chivalry, and he took care of my mom. She was the queen of the household, and he worked two and three jobs sometimes to make sure we had whatever we needed. Um, so I think just his hard work, definitely showed us the way of how to what we're supposed to do in life. We're supposed to be hardworking and supposed to. He was also big on charity. My dad and mom were very big on giving back, and even if they didn't have it themselves, they always felt that they had a little bit more than someone else. They needed to show that. So that's probably the biggest lesson I ever learned, is that because I am very philanthropic now, and a lot of that was taught to me by my parents. And then even right now I'm single, but when I date someone, I'm very much like my dad, and very attentive, very making sure that my girlfriend is happy and that she gets what she deserves, and so I think I learned a lot, just as far as being a man and doing the right thing. That's definitely something from my parents for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Would you say that more or less than you're humble at best?
Yes, yeah, I'm definitely very humble. I mean, I don't. My dad always taught me this. That he said, if you do something nice for someone else, and more than two people know about it, you did it for the wrong reason. And I help people to this day. I help people whenever I can, and no one knows about it because I just don't. That's not the reason why I do it. I do it to help out a friend or someone that I know, not because I need recognition or some kind of award for.
Right, because
For
then if the whole
things.
world knows, then you're generally, in essence, just boasting about it, as opposed to just keeping it low key and keeping that moment between you and that particular individual.
Exactly.
Very much
Yeah.
understood. And I myself believe in that too. I don't believe in really announcing everything that you do for everyone and anyone. Of course, in my position, I have a public that I cater to, and I do have to be mindful and from time to time make sure to be thankful to all the people that have helped me to get at this point. Just as you, I have my mom and I have my dad, and I have many friends and many other relatives that have helped me along the way in whatever way they could, rather it from a financial perspective or from a morality perspective, just and I think above the physicality of it all in terms of what you can get from a financial aspect, I think it's those internal matters and issues that matter the most. When somebody's there to encourage you, or when somebody's there to just root you on and tell you, listen, you're gonna make it, I believe in you, keep working hard. And when you hear those words, it gives you this sense of, wow, I do have people who genuinely believe in me, who are taking the time not only to invest in what I'm doing, but they're taking the time to also, you know, give me that good word, give me that good boost. And whether or not we need or don't need that boost, it's always good to receive either way, because it makes you feel so good, and it makes you feel that, hey, I have more reason to believe in this now.
Definitely. And I also think it also, when you get that support, you get the feeling that, okay, I can go for it right now, because if I fail, I have people to fall back on, that I have a support system that will catch me. And that's why I've been very blessed, that because I know other people who don't have that support system, who are basically on their own. If they quote unquote fail, they have no one to lean on. They're on their own devices, and I just think, like I said, I've been very blessed to have that support system around me that's allowed me to overcome the loss of my sight at 26 years old. So it's sometimes you don't even realize that you have that support system. It's just like all of a sudden you turn around, you're like, wait a second, I had this support all along, and like it's sometimes it goes unnoticed, or you don't need the support system, but then when you do need it and it's there for you, that's when you recognize it the most, that they've been there all along. It's just that you haven't needed that to rely on that support system as much throughout a certain period of time, and then one day you'll need it and you'll be glad it's there.
Speaking of support, and this kind of coincides with the question that I'm about to ask you, when you lost your vision, how did you cope with it? And also, how did people around you deal with the issue at hand?
Yeah, I mean, they, my parents obviously felt guilty. I had this conversation, actually, unfortunately, I never had it with my dad, but I had it with my mom after my dad passed away. And I said, did you guys feel guilty when I lost my sight? And of course, they're like, my mom was like, yeah, of course we did. You were our child, and we wanted it to happen to us, not you. And that's when I said, well, Mom, I'm fine. I'm okay with it. When I lost my sight, I basically I was driving on Thursday and Friday to blind on Tuesday. And so over the weekend, I noticed my sight was getting a little bit worse. A doctor mistreated me, and he should have sent me to a surgeon, ophthalmological. Yeah, well, I was seeing an ophthalmologist, but there's a medical ophthalmologist and a surgical ophthalmologist. The guy that I was seeing was not a surgeon. He just, he treated people's eye conditions, but he never performed surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he should have sent me to a surgeon much sooner than he did. And so when I went to 4 doctors in the course of 2 days, trying to find what's going on and how to handle it. And I went into Manhattan where I found my final doctor, and who I put my eyes in his hands and said, try to help me here. And I went through I lost my sight in 92. September 8th was my last day that I saw. And from 92 to 93, I went through about 12, 13 different surgeries and procedures to save sight in both eyes, and none of it ended up working. I think that what helped me a little bit in the transition from sight to blindness was the fact that I was going through all these different surgeries, and it kind of prolonged, not that I had any useful sight, I had none, but they kept on hoping that the next surgery would work. So as one would fail, we would they say, okay, next month we're going to try this, and I'd go for another surgery the following month. So it kind of eased me into realizing, you know what, this is not going to happen. And but by the 8th and 9th surgery, I'm like, I don't think it's going to work, but if this is my one shot at getting my sight back, I got to go through it. So it kind of eased my transition. By the time I was finished with the surgeries, it was a year later, and I was already kind of used to not having sight, and just kind of, the hardest day for me was selling my car. I had a real nice Mercury Cougar, and it was white with tinted windows and low ground effects and big woofers in the trunk, and man, I was the shit. And but unfortunately, that was probably one of the worst days of my life, and realizing at that point that I'm never going to drive again, that was a very telling sign to me. But
and it comes to show, I mean, even though we're accepting of some of the things that come our way, there are still rough edges around that surface. Even though we're acceptant, there are things that surround that particular variable in which, man, if reality hasn't hit in now it's really, really jabbed a good, punched a good jab, should I better say.
Yes, exactly. Because I already knew that I was not going to get my sight back, months before I sold my car. But just giving that car up was my independence, that was my freedom, and to be able to jump in the car and go as I please. It's just like you said, it's a reality check. This is going to be my life now, and time to deal with it and accept it and move on.
From that moment on forward, as you moved on, what were some of the hurdles that you had to climb over? Anything that you recall that was challenging, or was it mostly easy for you to deal with in terms of because I would imagine that in losing your sight, you would have to learn again how to do certain things.
Definitely. It was definitely a learning process. After I lost my sight, I went to the rehabilitation center, the Helen Keller Services for the Blind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I took computer training and learned O&M.
That's orientation and mobility for those watching.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, orientation mobility lessons. I learned daily living skills. I mean, everything basically that you need to know about being blind. And so when I went through that process first, and then I went back. See, before I lost my sight, I had gone to college part-time, but was wasting my time. I knew I wanted a career. I was also working for the New York Islanders professional hockey team, and so I never really focused on school. I was, I'd fail classes, I would withdraw from classes, I'd get D's in classes. I was never a motivated student.
He was number 11 on the hockey rink, folks.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I wish I played. I would like that money. But no, I traveled all over the United States and Canada with the team. So wherever the team went, I went. It was a dream job, and I had to leave it when I lost my sight. And so I was never a great student. I mean, I knew I was smarter than my grades, but I just never put the time and effort into it.
I think that's the case with a lot of us.
Yeah, it's true. And then, but it didn't. After I lost my sight, I went back to college, and I got straight A's at to finish up my associates. I had a 4.0 for my bachelor's. I was actually the salutatorian at the university. And I took a year off from school, and then I was accepted to NYU, which is, it's a pretty tough school to get into. And so I think, losing my sight, sometimes I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because it made me, wake up, and it made me realize that there are opportunities out there for anyone. It's just that you got to work your tail off to get what you want. And after my master's degree, I was fortunate. I graduated in 2001 from NYU, and a few months later, after graduation, I got hired to teach at the one university. So that was in 2002 I started teaching, and haven't looked back since. In 2004 is when I got accepted to Columbia, and started my doctoral program back in 2004. But so as far as obstacles, my obstacles have been really is my health. You know, I'm a diabetic. You know, dealing with cardiovascular disease, dealing with infections in the legs and stuff. That's been my biggest obstacle. I haven't found. So I hear so many stories about people going to college and having difficulties with professors and stuff like that. I've had no problems with professors. They've all been really good to me, and you know, definitely work with me and not against me. And I've been very blessed in that situation that you know, things like that have been smooth. But just dealing with my own personal health issues have been you know, a battle since I was a kid. But but that hasn't, you know, stopped me from continuing where you know, to where I've gotten to. And in fact, I don't think you even know that I use 2 prosthetic legs.
Okay.
I lost my legs, my right leg in 2008 and my left leg in 2010, and that's all diabetic related. And so again, it's just those are the kind of obstacles I've been dealing with. You know, have I dealt with accessibility issues and things like that? Yeah, from time to time, but you know, nothing has slowed me down except for the health issues that I've dealt with.
Which obviously you've learned to adapt and to some form contend with, I guess I could say.
Definitely, and it's a lot of it is just, again, just not letting the small stuff doesn't bother me anymore. You know, it's you know, because I've dealt with so much more. You know, I dated someone for 7 years who was an alcoholic, and I saw her in front of me pass away. And yeah, so those are the kind of things that when I hear about, like you know, little pieces of what they call drama or whatnot, I just like laugh at it, because like, you know, there's so much more serious in life that, you know, that little stuff to me is,
it's child's play, really.
It is because there's so much more that we have to contend with. And you know, whether or not someone is holding the door open for me because I'm blind or because they're being nice, doesn't matter to me. Thank you.
Exactly.
You for holding the door.
Amen to that. Amen
you know,
to that.
It's, I don't sit there and try to think about what's their intentions, or, you know, do they feel sorry for me? No,
See, and that's something that I do have a problem with. And okay, the perception that a lot of, I don't want to sound like I'm being discriminative or that I'm calling anybody out, because that's really not the intent. But whenever blind people complain about other folks, and in this situation, people who are sighted, when they complain about them giving them a helping hand, they perceive it as, hey, they're looking at me as if though I'm helpless. And I think you've said something very key here, and it's true. It doesn't matter for what reason they're doing it. The point is they're doing it. And I think as the person that's being helped at that moment, no matter the intention behind it, you accept it. You take that person's hand. You know, you don't bite the hand that's trying to feed you.
Right.
That is so true. I mean, it might sound cliche and it might be something that's overly used, but it's so true.
And I think too is how you, not me, you, Mo, but just you as a person out there, how they react can change a person for maybe the next person. Maybe you don't need help across the street, but maybe the next blind person does. And if you sit there and if they ask you for, can I help you across the street, and you yell and scream and,
No, I
you
don't need
know,
help.
and
Then they're not going to want to help
right,
out the next person who may need
might need
help.
it. Exactly. And that's why I always, tend to use, sense of humor and to make people relax around me.
Right,
It's,
right.
it's to me, it just kind of breaks the ice and make them realize, oh, this guy's okay.
And
He's
eventually they
secure
don't look at you
himself.
as that blind guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. And that's where, even when I talk about dating, um, to find a woman when she sees you walking with a guide dog, in my case, if she's going to approach me or talk to me and stuff, it's to me, it's she's already accepting of the fact that I'm blind, or can be able to deal with it. Whereas, there's other people who cannot, and so you kind of know already off the bat if this person would be okay with dating someone who's blind. It's because it's different. There are things about dating a sighted person compared to a blind person that obviously are different. But I just think that when you do find someone and they are willing to accept the fact that you're blind, then that's a good thing. They're already accepting of it, and which means that now we can start a relationship. And that kind of ties back to the same thing. If people are there trying to help, I don't look at that as they're trying to be. Because when I had sight, I held the door open for women all the time, and even guys. If I'm going out and the door, they're carrying a package, something, I'll hold the door for you.
Right, it's just something
It's
that you do. It has nothing to do
courtesy.
with if the person is blind or not. Maybe in that case it does a little bit, but still, it's just like you said. It's part of being courteous.
Yeah.
People who are sighted hold doors for each other all the time. And sometimes, let me be frank with you, sometimes sighted people need more help than what we do. That's
You're
just the
right.
reality of things. Me, I'm Mr. Technology. So, and I pride myself in what I know in terms of what I do, rather it computer work or production or video production. I pride myself in that a little bit, and I love the fact that I could help somebody out. And sometimes I will admit, I'm more patient with myself than what I am other people. Because to a certain point, I am kind of a perfectionist. And I guess and I'm making no excuses, but that kind of comes in terms of what I do. Because I'm a music guy, and I also, obviously, I make videos. And in doing so, you're always making sure of, does this either look or sound right? And you concentrate on those values so much so that everything has to be aligned just right. Your timing has to be precise. Everything is about precision. And I'm not saying be perfect, because being a perfectionist is a completely different concept than being perfect. Perfect, nobody is. But
But that you put that pressure on yourself, so you're your worst critic.
absolutely,
And that's
absolutely,
but
and
but
all
that
that, all that to say this, I'm more patient with myself, and it's just that I expect people to, when I say something, if I tell them click on the red square on the right hand corner, I expect you to know where the right hand corner is and what square I'm talking about.
right.
When I tell people go to run and type in whatever command I need you to type in at the given moment, I expect you to do it right away or to know what I'm talking about. Because if you don't, and I feel like I have to repeat myself over and over, I tend to kind of lose my patience a little bit and just say, you know what, just figure it out yourself.
Yeah. Or either that, or you take it. You're like, move over. I'll just do it. Sometimes it's easier just to do it
Exactly. I'll
yourself
just do
than
it myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it adds more work on your pile. So, yeah.
And everybody has their shortcomings. Everybody has something that they have to, or not even have to, but that they stride, should I better say, to improve on. In my case, it would be patience with other people in certain criterion, not all, because I'm patient with a lot of things, but when it comes to technological side of things, I'm really not that patient when it comes to other people, because no, I could sit there for hours on end and figure out how to decrypt or encrypt or fix and repair certain technological situations. And for real, and I'm the most patient person in the world, whereas other people would already want to throw their game system or computer out the window.
Right. Yeah.
But okay, so you have a guide dog, yes?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Okay. We might have different opinions on what I'm about to present here, but let me present to you Uber. And I'm sure everybody by this point knows what Uber is, so I don't really have to give an overview, really. But it's a service. It's a service. You call them, they pick you up, they take you to where you need to go, and it's cheaper than a taxi cab, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple of issues in which guide dogs haven't been accepted in set trip or set person's car. Here's my opinion on that whole situation. I look at it this way. I look at it from a couple of angles, actually. First off, we have to really, when these issues present themselves, I think that individuals in our boat, the blind and visually impaired, we have to sit back and really think about it from this perspective. Didn't we start off with a cane in the first place? Okay. Then I think we should really take it a little bit more further and look beyond ourselves, because that's sometimes a problem. Sometimes we just look at ourselves and our needs and how we need to be accommodated to, as opposed to thinking, what if the driver's allergic to dogs? Because it's not like you're in a bus. Okay, it's not like you're in a bus where there's more space, where you're kind of a little bit more detached from the driver in front of set bus. You're in a more compacted space in a car. You're more, it's more tightly knitted together. So what if this person, like I said before, what if this person is allergic to dogs? So not to over exaggerate here, but you never know how far allergic reactions can go. Some allergic reactions can even take people to the hospital. So who is that ultimately going to be on? It's going to be on you. And I don't mean you in general, just in specific, I'm just generalizing. It's going to be on you. You're going to say, man, had I only just taken the dog back inside and grabbed my cane, this wouldn't have happened. But we don't think of these things. So, I mean, if you have an opinion on the matter, then go ahead, man. You're free to have your say. This is everybody's podcast, so go ahead, brother. Home in if you want.
The only thing where I'll disagree with you is that just like the Taxi and Limousine Commission in New York, for example, they oversee the medallions that are given out to taxi cabs. They are providing the taxis, that is, are providing a public service for us. And I mean for us, I mean for everybody, not just people who are blind. And I think that if you're going to allow Uber drivers not to follow the ADA and accessibility laws and for taking service animals, well then where does that stop? They're going to say that now the subways, you can't use a dog in the subways, you can't use it in taxi cabs, you can't use them on buses. I mean, so I think my thing is, if you're going to be an Uber driver, you should be, have some sensitivity training and understand that we're using a dog because it makes our life easier, because we travel more safely independently with the dog, or whatever the reason. I mean, I do. I'm not a good cane user at all, so the cane really is not an option for me. So I just think that they need to be, maybe, see our side of it a little bit more, that we're not just taking a dog for a ride and playing with the puppy. These dogs are well trained. They are they are well behaved. So I just think that, I don't know. I mean, I could see your point. I could see what you're saying, that we should be understanding of that. I've been turned down by taxis. I was standing at Columbia University waiting for a taxi to go back down to Penn Station, and taxi would pull over, and then they see the dog and they shoot it off and they take off. I was stuck at LaGuardia Airport from a car company that was supposed to be picking me up. They had to send 3 different cars to come get me. The one guy wanted to put my dog in the trunk.
What?
Uh-huh.
Okay, see, now that's a little too much.
Well, that's
see, that I don't agree with.
Yeah, no, well, that I had to deal with that at LaGuardia Airport, going back to Manhattan after I went down to St. Louis for a conference. And when I came back, I had this car company scheduled to pick me up, and they sent 3 different cars had to come. Finally, the 3rd car took me. But so, I mean, those are the kind of things that it's not, I'm not looking for special treatment, but just fair treatment. And I think if you're going to be, making money, and you're going to offer a service, that, you're going to need to cater to people who are blind and visually impaired. Same thing.
Because we are out there.
Oh yeah, there's enough of us. Yeah, and it was I just heard a story the other day about a gentleman getting attacked on an airplane by it was like an emotional support dog or something like that, and the guy was attacked for it, and who's are they going to stop having people take on their emotional support dogs, or people in wheelchairs? Are they going to stop allowing them to bring their service dogs with them? I mean, it's it could open up a whole can of worms where maybe we'll lose it altogether, and then lose the right to have a dog with us, or a guide dog with us, and then then we'll be fighting to get it back. So I don't know. It's a tough.
It's complicated. I think
it is.
I think a big problem here is the fact that both parties, in essence, aren't really willing to meet halfway, and I think that's where it ultimately begins. Both parties need to understand, to see it from each other's point of views, and then compromise. That's it. It's funny how some things, or I'll even go as far as saying most things, solutions are so simple, but as human beings, we love to complicate things.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we just love to make something simple extraordinarily complicated.
No, you're right. You're right.
And it affects no one else but us as a community, as a whole.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that's, like I said, it's when you make it more complicated, it a lot of times it's things could be handled instead of in a courtroom. Just let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and let's talk it out. And we'll we can work something that's fair to all. It doesn't have to be one-sided. But I think with Uber, maybe if like when you take an Uber, I don't really care which driver it is. I mean, they're all pretty much the same. So if one driver is allergic and can't accept guide dogs, okay, if that's legit. but then make sure there's a second car coming for me right away.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was about to say that too. So if we go back to the allergic theme, then I think they should have a thing where if the driver is allergic, and in your very words, if it's legitimate, have the driver say so. You know, don't be rude about it. Have the driver say so, and have them say, you know what? I can't take you, but I'll make sure to get somebody for you that can. You know, I'll contact my people, and they'll send someone out here for you.
Right. At least that's.
I think that's a very simple solution to the cause.
Yeah. As long as as long as I get it right, I don't. And again, as long as it's a legit excuse that he's seriously not allergic to dogs, and I.
Or what if there's a thing where when you're booking your trip, you know, there's a form, so to speak, that in which you could say, listen, I'm visually impaired and I'm traveling with a guide dog, to let the driver know, and that way they can send somebody who's acceptant of guide dogs.
Right, and that would be a good argument. Yet there's other people who would say, well, if I put down that I have a guide dog, they're not going to come for me. So I'd rather
we can't leave it. We can't. That's the problem, though. See,
I know
we cannot assume things. Again, it goes back to what I said. We have this bad habit of putting labels and descriptions on the cited. Not everyone is out there to get us.
Right.
And we have to get over this stupid misconception. We have to. Because otherwise, how are we going to evolve as a group of people? How are we going to evolve? How else are we going to coexist?
No, you're right. And
in my opinion, that is a great solution, but they're shooting it down, or they would shoot it down, like you said, by saying, oh, but if we put that we're carrying a guide dog with us, then they're not going to want to. How do you know? How the hell do you know?
Yeah.
Listen, 90% of the time, people are going to be willing to help. That's a big number from where I'm from.
Yeah.
See? Folks. Learn to meet each other halfway. Compromise. Don't assume. You know what word assume has within it?
But that is like the argument too, is, and I don't want, we're going to get sidetracked, but do you before a job interview, do you disclose that you're blind or visually impaired before the interview, or do you just go there and let them find out for themselves, or bring it up in the interview? And I don't know, like, or even on dating sites, do you put up there that you're blind and visually impaired, or do you wait to talk to the person on the phone for a few days, few weeks, whatever, and then break it to them then?
All right, let's go with the whole job thing first. In some cases, you could think, man, if I put that I'm visually impaired, I'm not even gonna get as far as the interview.
Yes. You're right.
But then you say, but if I don't put it and they see me and I get interviewed, either one of two things. Either it'll be the same situation in which I don't even get the job, or from oneself's peace of mind, or however you want to fix it, I'm going to feel like a complete idiot for kind of keeping this on the wraps and not being honest from the get-go. Because there is a such thing as people valuing honesty.
Yeah.
And so there's many ways to approach this situation, and I'm someone who believes very much in be upfront and be honest from the get-go. Because if you're not, that kind of stuff could get you in deeper trouble.
Yeah.
It really can.
No, definitely. Yeah, I'm always the same way too. I always feel, you know what? But I know other blind vision impaired people who are like, I have confidence, and I know, teaching wise, like professor, I know I'm good at it, and my view is, if you don't want to hire me, it's your loss,
All right,
because
another
I
door
know.
will open, more opportunities will present themselves.
Exactly. And but again, I've been blessed, and financially I can, I'm okay. So I'm not, if I was desperate for a job or something like that, it might be, I might have a different viewpoint. But I go into an interview, I have no problems. In fact, the second university, the one I just left now, when they hired me, he didn't even know I was blind.
Look
He
at that.
he had my resume, and he called me, and I started out doing a leave replacement. The woman was maternity leave, and he called the first university to get a reference, and that's when he found out I was blind, and I had no idea. But I thought he knew, but he didn't even know. He hired me on the phone, and said, "Teaching job's yours if you want it." And then when he called me back, he said, "I didn't know you were blind." He said, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you can teach, and you're willing to do it. It's your job." So I was pretty, that was that added bonus of getting hired. That it didn't matter. He didn't even know I was blind when he offered me the job.
And
So
if blind people ventured out into the world and really saw it for what it is, we would have knowledge enough to understand that in most cases it's a matter of, it doesn't matter that you are, as long as you can.
yeah,
Believe me. I'm
Yeah.
sure you know this.
yeah, and definitely, and just by but sometimes you just need that opportunity to show what you can do. You don't want that prospective employer on the other side of the desk interviewing you, thinking, how is this guy going to work here? How is this young lady going to, do this job and this job? So if we can get the chance to show them what we can do, they'd be amazed at, how hardworking and how intelligent that, a lot of us are.
And we can't go into an interview stuck on this whole perception and thought of, oh my god, I'm blind. Oh my god, are they gonna accept me?
No.
Oh my god, what are they gonna think? Oh my god, this, and oh my god, that. No, we gotta just go for it. They ask you a question, you answer it. Boom, that's it.
Yeah.
Smile, look confident, stand tall, stand proud, no matter what. And they'll look at that. And the vision thing becomes secondary, or maybe not even a thought at all.
Yeah. No, you're right, and that's just showing that confidence. Will make them more at ease, and if you have to use a little humor or something to, a little something cute to say, or just something to kind of break the ice, and then by explaining the different things that you can do,
Right.
they would ask me, like, how would you teach a class? And I say, oh, well, I use PowerPoint, and it's a screen reading package that that reads the screen to me. I said, most of the time I know my classes, and I know what's all the slides I memorized. I use models and different devices to teach my class. So if you, as long as you prepared, and how you're going to do that particular job, that it takes that whole worry about how can this person do the job, and so you just have to prove to them that you can do it, not to worry. Give me, trust me, and I'll you'll be very lucky to hire me. But you got to give them that kind of answers, because they don't want to be discriminatory, or say you can, or prejudice in any way. But they need to know, okay, this is different. I've never had a blind accountant, or I never had a blind teacher, or whatever it may be. make me feel at ease by telling me how you're going to do this job. And you do that, it takes away all their, the negative thoughts. It takes away all their, the concerns about, is this person that I'm going to hire going to be able to do the job or not? And so if you can ease their mind, then, then you'll be a better candidate.
I believe that one of the best questions that, as a blind or visually impaired individual, that you can get during a job interview is, how can we accommodate you? That right there kind of lets you know what? They're willing to meet me halfway.
Yeah.
But why? Because you've let your personality shine. You didn't come in there, quote unquote, looking blind, if I may use that term. You didn't have this persona of, woe is me, I'm blind.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's all part of the confidence and just going in there and saying, you know what, I'm gonna make them, have to hire me. They're gonna see what a great employee I would be for them, and how I could be an asset to this company. If they don't hire me, they're gonna be kicking themselves. And you go in that attitude, and you prove your case. And again, it's not. I don't think people don't want to hire people who are blind and visually impaired. It's just they're not used to it. They're not used to hiring someone who's blind and visually impaired. So you kind of have to give them a little education about, well, here's how I do it. I have my laptop with me. If you want to see the program, it's called JAWS or NDVA or whatever, and kind of just show that you can do whatever they're asking you to do, and it just kind of erases all those
doubts that they
doubts.
might have had.
Definitely.
Now, when it comes to dating, and what a dichotomy, right? We go from the job market to dating.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the opposite sex, so to speak, do you feel that, as blind individuals, do you feel that men, if you're a woman, will a man be more accepting to somebody who's blind, or will a lady be more accepting towards a gentleman who's blind? I finally put him on the spot.
Yeah, I know. 'Cause, just off the top of my head, I haven't thought of this, but I would think, because in our society, the women are seen to be the nurturing type, the motherly type, right? They're the ones that, if a child falls, the father's like, come on, get up, walk it off, and the mom's like, hey, only kiss your knee, and so, just again, this is totally off the top of my head. I would think that a woman would be more accepting of dating a man who is blind than a guy would accept a woman who is blind.
Given the whole sensitivity value.
Yeah, again, if you gave me, if I can come back tomorrow and answer it, I'll think of it more deeply. But just off the cuff, I would say, yeah, that would be my thinking, is that women would be more accepting of dating someone with any disability compared to guys. Yeah.
Do you find that, in comparison to back when, do you find that now it's more of an easier time, or is this generation of how do I want to word this? Okay. Is this more of an easier time period for one to cope with blindness versus how it was back then?
In terms of dating, or are you talking about just in life?
In life in general, in terms of one going out, going to and fro. We have all these programs now, rehabilitation centers. We have Uber, we have Lyft, we have all these things. We have a bunch of, if people aren't the best of cooks, there's takeout services. If people aren't really homed into their mobility, there's Uber, there's all these methods of transportation now, which we are, and we have accessibility to, which And Uber, in its own perspective, is a door-to-door service.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
do you find that it's a much easier time period now versus back when we really had limited sources?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you just.
Even in terms of school, I mean, think of all the
Mhm.
technological advances we have now. We have smartphones, iPads,
Yeah.
other forms of tablets. Even braille displays have become prominent and more technologically advanced, as opposed to when back then, there were braille lights and braille notes, and I mean they were advanced to their own right, but not as ridiculously
Hmm.
advanced as machinery is nowadays.
Yeah. No. That's you know one of the best parts of it is the technology. I mean, what a sighted person can do on their iPhone, we can do for the most part, and I think that itself is is just such it helps us. Like it's like anything else. It's whether it's a cane or a guide dog, or that helps us travel independently and safely using a cane or a guide dog. Technology allows us to do a lot of things too that makes us more independent, so we're not so dependent on others. We can order Uber, we can go on Amazon and order something from Amazon, we can play music on our phones and go on Skype, or so this I mean so the list is endless of what we can do now because of technology. And I mean, I just think it's going to be even as tech every few months something changes with technology, and it's not going to slow down. I think there's our lives are going to be made so much easier because of technology. Hopefully we don't get too lazy, though. That's the thing is,
That's the
we
drawback, yes.
yeah, 'cause that's I can sit home now and just do all my Christmas shopping online. I don't have to go and walk around the mall anymore, which is I could probably use the exercise, but those are the kind of things that we have to to guard against, is that we don't want to get too lazy, but yet the technology is out there for us to communicate around the world, and it's just it's incredible.
It's
So I
so
think that
much so
definitely
that
helps.
there's even screen reader and all these methods of accessibility in video game consoles. The new PS4 and Xbox One both have accessibility features, so you can navigate the user interface and such.
Hmm.
So I mean, even gaming, it's picked up on the whole accessibility aspect of things. And I mean, who would have ever thought that a
Hmm.
console would be accessible to those who are visually impaired, or to those who have problems with, their limbs and
Hmm.
other forms of accessibility features in these video game consoles, where back then, if you got a PS3 or any system before the PS4 or the Xbox One, you had to remember the number of clicks, or go via
Right.
sound. Okay, 2 clicks down is this option, or 2 clicks
Hmm.
down and 1 click to the right takes me to that menu or that column, or what
Hmm.
have you. So now it just reads everything out to you, to
Yeah.
where you know where you're at in terms of the user interface. Now within game you still have to memorize the clicks and all that good stuff, but the fact that the console in itself is accessible, to where when somebody's inviting you to play a game, you click the notification, the game loads, and you're right there connected with that person who invited you to play. You see,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's amazing, really. And I remember when I first got wind of accessibility on a video game console, it kind of blew me away. I'm like, what in the world? I mean, and the
Uh-huh.
more accessibility that's out there for more gadgets, it's just it's breathtaking in a sense, because these are things that essentially you never imagined would come as far as they have, especially in terms of accessibility. Because you think video games, you really don't think accessibility. What you think
Hmm.
is a very abstract and visual concept. comes to the mind whenever video games are discussed. So,
Definitely.
and here on this particular channel, we do video gameplays. And part of the reason why we do video gameplays on here is to inspire other visually impaired and blind people to let them know, listen, we are not limited to what we can do. Maybe driving is out of the question for now. And again, I say for now. But video games is something that we definitively can achieve, can play, and it all takes time, dedication, and your willingness to wanna engage in picking up a controller and learning how to choreograph, how to syncopate that finger to mind type of connectivity and just lose yourself in that world. And it's a beautiful thing, man, because in my personal opinion, yes, audio games nowadays have picked up and have become better than what they were, but in my opinion, there is so much more that can be done as opposed to just having point and click and shoot type games, and a lot of audio games are like that. Guess the sound, you hear the whatever sound cue to your left, okay, you walk towards it, boom, you open the door, bang, and that's all there's really to it. But there's nothing like picking up a controller and learning the intricacies of a sport game or a fighting game or a horror survival game, which, again, if you put your mind to it and if you dedicate, best believe you can achieve.
Yes.
So.
But even, just going back, like, being able to buy an iPhone or a Samsung and take it off the shelf, and you can turn talk back on, you turn voiceover on, and now your phone is accessible. Like that, whoever thought that would ever happen? You always thought we'd have to buy the phone and then buy
separate accessibility, which
JAWS or whatever. Yeah,
which is another computer really, or another phone, back when you had to install these screen readers onto the phone themselves. I mean, you'd spend what, $200-$300 on a phone, and then it's another $300 to $400 for the screen reader. It's like, man, I could have bought myself another extra phone or a low-end computer.
Yep, exactly. But now you pick it off the shelf, you hit the home button on, I don't know, for an iPhone, you hit the home button 3 times, and voiceover comes on, and you can go. I mean, it's just.
And if that doesn't work, well, there's always connectivity with a computer. You turn it on through iTunes. Go through those options there, and you can turn on accessibility that way, or in some cases there is a way to access Siri, but there's a trick to that. So but there's many ways to skin the cat.
Yep. Definitely right.
As cliche as that one sounds.
but again, just being able to go to Apple store or to Verizon store and pick a phone off the rack, and and 10 minutes later you have it up and talking to you and stuff. I mean, that's that's incredible, and hopefully things just across the board will be a little bit more easier for us as we as time goes on, as we buy other different products, that things will be more accessible to us, or more like I said in the beginning, I'm not looking for special treatment. I just want some fair treatment. If things can be done that can make our lives a little bit easier, I'm all for it. I don't want anyone to feel they owe me anything, but if there's certain things that should be done safety wise and things like that, or make us more independent, then I'm all for it. And if it doesn't help me, it might help the next guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I think it's that ability for one to be selfless that really, really goes a long way. And it shows that, listen, you're not just in for it for your own sake, but you're also looking out for your neighbor, so to speak. How do you feel, though, in terms of blind individuals who refuse to admit or ask for help?
I I don't know why you wouldn't. You know, I mean,
Because we
I'm
are so into this concept of being independent means you're Superman or Superwoman.
yeah.
And if we look
Well,
all around us, and it goes back to something I said earlier on this podcast, sighted people sometimes even need more help than what we do. And if anything, on a day-to-day basis, they're always asking one another, hey, you know what, could you lend me a hand with this? Or, yo, how do you do that? Or, yo,
hmm
I can't figure this out. So
hmm
it's an everyday thing.
yeah.
But we have this concept of, no, we need to do everything on our own, everything by ourselves.
And see, and this is a sighted world, and there there are times where you're going to need someone with sight. Yeah, if I wanted to go shopping, I have to take a taxi or Uber or the bus to go to the mall. They all get the bus, Uber, and taxis get driven by a sighted person. So there's no way around it. There's going to be times where you're going to have to rely on someone with sight. Um, it's not that you should be dependent on them or that you should, you should hire a babysitter. But there's going to be times where, like, I needed articles read, and my mom did it for me, or I had a reader that did it for me. I have, even now teaching, I have a reader that I hire, and she sits down with me every semester to read my students' papers. Now, I could have my students email them to me and things like that, but I like I like having a reader write on my students' papers comments. So it just seems more personal.
It's more personal.
And that's why I do it. But I just think that for someone to be afraid of asking for help, I mean, I don't understand why you would be, if you're in a strange place and if you have to go to the bathroom, you're not going to ask someone. You're just going to walk up and down the hallway till you find a braille sign that says men or women. I mean, it's just it's so much easier saying, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the bathroom is?" Or, can you show me where the line begins or ends? Or, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It doesn't make you look less of a person for asking for help. There's sighted people that ask for help all the time. And so, I don't know. I just think people sometimes are too caught up in what people are going to think, or am I going to look less independent, or am I going to look like needy, or not? No, it's just your eyes don't work. Okay, so there's going to be things you're going to need help with in addressing your lack of being able to see. There's no getting around it. And so I just think if for people that feel that they should be totally independent and do everything on their own and knock yourself out, but you're gonna cause more aggravation and stress for yourself by doing that than it would be just to ask for help within reasons. Again, you don't want to be dependent on and asking someone all the time, what is this, how much is this, you won't be doing that, but yet
because you look like you're getting up in the person's grill, if anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you become a pain in the neck, and eventually no one's going to talk to you. So you don't want to be, glom on somebody. You want to be able to ask for help if you need it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think, especially in certain areas. When I'm down in New York City subways, it's very loud in there, and I feel like I can't see or hear in the subway. So I have no problem asking someone, can you tell me which way the stairs are? I mean, I have my dog, he does his job, but sometimes, it's too noisy for him down there. So I'd rather ask someone for help than to get, find out the next thing I'm laying on the railroad track somewhere, So it's just, you have to be smart. You have to be, I don't know, you can't feel, I don't know.
The sense of invincibility, because now all of a sudden I'm doing something that makes me feel independent. Now I can do everything without being dependent from time to time on somebody's help.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
listen, there's many, many, many ways in which we can prove our independence and prove to people that we are independent. You know, just in doing things. Say, for instance, just navigating an iPhone, for example. That should give people a mindset of, hey, you know what? I'm doing something that everybody else does. I'm navigating a phone on my own. You know, I can navigate a computer on my own, which opens the doors and possibilities to many, many, many other things. You can podcast, which obviously opens up the door to many, many, many other opportunities. You can order things online. You know, you could game on a computer. So sometimes we don't even need to look all that far in order for us to say that in some way or another we are independent, because I like to believe that in one way or another, all of us, no matter what, blind or not, wheelchair bound or not, we are all independent in our own right. But at the same time, we are all dependent as well. Because there's no one in this world breathing today who doesn't need help with something. Okay? I bet you, throughout the transcourse of today, throughout the week's transcourse, the month, as years go by, every single day, not one day will go by where you don't hear the words, hey, yo, bro, could you help me out with this? Or where you won't say, hey, yo, could you help me out with this? It happens every day. Every day. Every day.
Yep. No, you're right, and that's why I don't get people who are so, gung ho about. I mean, there's people out there who don't believe in. Well, it's another topic for another time, but believe in use of guide dogs. They think you should use a cane. That's fine if you're a good cane user. I was not. I'd be stuck in my house every day if I didn't have the guide dog, because I'm just not a good cane traveler. So I just think that you have to use what's available to you, and if there's someone who can offer you assistance and someone that can, I say, make your life easier, why not? Why there's no I'm not I don't get shamed by that. I have no problem asking people for help, and it's not my first thing I do. I'll try to find it myself or do this, but whatever, I'll do it myself. But if there's certain things I can't do, or if I'm in a rush, instead of trying to figure out what color my shirt is, I'll ask my nephew or my brother, what color is this, real quick, and just to make things quicker and get me on my way a lot sooner.
There you go.
So, I don't know. That's just me. But
there's ways around everything, and I think people should be more cognizant of that, and we should stop holding on to this self-pride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because this whole sense of I could do everything on my own, it's only gonna make matters worse for you, and you're only gonna come across as a you-know-what. So
yeah, and
you don't want that reputation.
No, you don't. You don't, because you want to be seen and to show people that you are independent. But there's nothing wrong with needing help once in a while. That's it's going to happen. One way or another, you're gonna need some type of help to do something. I don't know. I don't. There's just no shame in asking for help. It's something you can't do, and a lot of it is because your eyes don't work. If you had sight that you could hop in a car and drive, you wouldn't have to rely on a taxi driver or Uber or things like that. So, and I think people are too caught up in trying to prove to the world that they are the same as people with sight, and
Do you realize how many people travel via bus, train, or Uber just because they either A, don't have the facilities at the moment to get a car, or B, they just don't want to drive?
Mm-hmm.
And these are
Yeah.
sighted people. There are plenty, more than a handful, plenty of sighted individuals who don't drive, who
Definitely.
commute via bus or taxi or Uber or whatever service you want to think of.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty.
Yeah.
I mean, if there weren't, then hey, you know what? Buses, trains, cabs, they would all be out of business.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's people in the city that don't even buy cars because
The
they just
city. And this is the city where, listen,
Uh-huh.
everything's accessible to you in the city. But again,
Yeah.
these are people who are commuting via other methods of transportation because they figure, hey, I don't have to drive. I have all this around me. There's buses, there's trains, there's Lyft, there's Uber, there's okay, come on.
Yeah.
I don't need a car.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, but they're dependent on those sighted people. You know, that's the sighted people who drive those cars and those buses and those trains.
Right, and they
So-
look at it with no problem. They're not saying, "Oh, I feel helpless because I don't have a car."
Uh-huh.
Why can't we look at it that way?
No idea.
See, got
I think
gotta
you should
find.
be president, Mo.
Excuse me.
I think you should be president next time. Get Trump out and put you, you solve all the problems. You solve all the world problems. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Me for president. Yes, vote.
Yeah.
Let's vote. Let's vote.
Get you in there.
I like that. Now, within classroom walls and out, have you ever faced any form of discrimination?
I'm gonna say yes, and that's the reason why I'm not going back to this university next year. This was my last semester there, and I really should have put up a stink more than I did, and I didn't. Basically, what happened was when I was hired, the gentleman who hired me, he's the one that did not know I was blind, so he hired me, and he retired 4 years ago. And this new person came in, and I felt like she had it out for me the whole time I was there. Just every single little thing, she'd complain about, or she'd say, Terry, I'm going to come and observe you. Now, I've never heard her go into any other classes. Now, she could have, and she probably did, but I never heard any of my colleagues talking about her coming and observing them. One of the comments she made on my evaluation was that there were students in the back of the room playing on Facebook. And she's like, you're going to have to somehow, stop that. And I'm like, well, I can't see them doing it, A. And B, if you think that I'm the only class that they're doing that in, then you're misguided, because you walk up and down these hallways right now, you'll see students in the back reading newspapers or playing on their, they're acting like they're taking notes. Meanwhile, they're on Facebook with their friends or whatever. So after that evaluation, she comes and tells me that they're going to assign a grad assistant to my classroom. And I was ticked off because I never had help in the classroom. I always used to, hand out the papers myself, and, have students help me if I needed names read off a piece of paper or something like that. I'd have a student help me, and never a problem. But then she asked me to take on this grad assistant. So begrudgingly I did, and I should have told her no, but I didn't. And the grad assistant she gave to me, which worked with me for 3 years, she was probably busier on Facebook than any of the other students. So here she is. She's supposed to be looking at the other students to making sure that they're paying attention and not, messing around in class. And she's on Facebook herself. So, yeah. So, so that backfired. So I felt that that there's a lot of things that my boss wanted me to do and was not practical. She wanted me to work with the university and setting up, to use a computer system that is more accessible, because there was a thing they call it class. Sometimes you hear Blackboard, or they have different setups at different universities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had one of those at this university, and it was so not blind friendly. It was ridiculous. I couldn't really navigate it, and so when I told her this, because she wanted me to put more of my work up on this class so that the students could have access to it, and I was telling her, well, it's not. You have to make it accessible, because I can't do it. And she wanted me to work with the university and like the faculty, support services over there, and to try to fix it, or to try to make it, more accessible for someone who's blind. And I'm like, I don't got time for that. Like, and I did, but I was just so. By that time, I was just so fed up with her. She wanted me to change my whole syllabus around, and it was just. I'm like, when you teach at a college, you're supposed to have what's called academic freedom. You're supposed to be able to teach the way you want, and to, include certain lessons that you want, and don't teach these lessons because they're not important or whatever. And she was on my case the whole time.
It's not fun having a cloud hovering over you either.
It's not, because I love, teaching at the college, and especially sexuality. It is my passion.
It's my passion too. I love learning about it.
yeah, we know that, Mo. But it's something that I'm good at. I know I am. Am I an expert in all areas of sexuality? No, of course not.
All right, ladies.
I know my stuff.
Take notes.
Yeah, that's right. My number is 800 stud. No, but seriously, that's like when I had sight, I could not do public speaking. I couldn't talk in front of a class, and I was just nervous as heck. After I lost my sight and went back to school and started doing more presentations in class. Like now, I sit in front of the classroom talking about anatomy and physiology and cunnilingus and fellatio and, obviously the slang terms and stuff. And I have no problem doing it at all. So it's just it's something I love doing, and I hope I can get back into it. But if not, like I said, then I'll get on my RV and drive across the country.
Maybe you'll find a job here with us. You never know.
All right.
You never know. I'm management. No. I know I'm not supposed to put it out there, but it's already been addressed publicly by my other colleagues that I work with. So.
Yeah. Well, I did start a podcast with my son.
And, nice. You wanna plug that if it's still around?
It's not around. We did it a few weeks, and then we never got back into it. It was called Sex with My Dad. True story. And the website was sexwithmydad.com, and it was. We just I would have my students write out questions, and I always said to them, write a question that you've always wanted to know but were too afraid to ask. And anonymously, no names on the index cards, and they would write it out. Right. And I would answer a lot of the questions in class, but then I took the rest of them home, and we used those to do the podcast. And we only made like 2-3 episodes, and then that was it. We never never followed up on it. He got too busy at work, and so it was just something we never followed up on. But it was a great great father-son bonding time for sure.
Awesome times. And again, family ties are always a good thing, man. If you're tied in with the right person.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
sometimes family will treat you like crap.
Yeah.
So that's a true story.
Sticking to it.
And that's a true story too.
What's that?
The sweepers passing through.
Oh.
Oh, gotta love those sweepers. There it goes, that big old brush cleaning the streets. Go ahead. Oh, gotta have a little fun.
Oh, definitely. And that's, I'll just tell you a few quick stories if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go ahead, please. I'm dying for these.
No, it is I'm the youngest of 5 boys, and my brothers are relentless with me, and like I'm the youngest, so I was always getting teased as being the baby of the family and stuff. And my one brother, he's the second oldest, John. He's a great sense of humor. He's really quick on his feet with when it comes to his wit, and he's also a little nutty, so he's dangerous. And so I mentioned earlier about my different health issues, and you asked me about how did I transition from sight to blindness, and one of the reasons why I don't take things so serious is because of my brothers. They make sure that if I get too serious, they kind of smack me in the head and get me straight again. And so like after my first surgeries, when the very first surgery after I was losing my sight, I was in the hospital in Manhattan, and when I woke up the next morning, I had chiclets, the gum between each of my toes. My brother took chiclets and put it between my toes. Anytime I'm in the hospital, they put above the bed, they'll put a sign and it says in print, blind patient, or it'll be like an eyeball with the X through it, so it says, signifying that I'm not, that I don't have sight. And so my brother he'll tape a sign above that, and it'll say horny. So the sign will read horny blind patient, or stupid. He'll be stupid blind patient. So he does, and I can't see him doing this stuff. So I'll make this story quicker than I usually drag it out. But this one time I was in the hospital, and they had I got really bad veins, so they can't draw blood from me. So they end up putting this it's a central line. It goes in the neck, and so they can draw blood and put IV fluids into it. Mm-hmm. Not pretty. So I was in pretty tough shape, and they wanted to move me over to the cardiac wing. So this gentleman comes in with the wheelchair, and they have my IV hanging on the IV pole, and they get me into the wheelchair, and he was trying to push me outside the door to take me down to the other wing. And I'm like spinning left and right. The guy can't push the wheelchair and the IV pole at the same time. So I was like, do you need help? He's like, yeah, if you could hold the IV pole, it'll be a lot easier. So I'm like, all right. So I'm holding the IV pole, and he pushes me outside the room. We go all the way down the end of the hallway to the nurse's station, pick up my records and say goodbye to the nurses. We come all the way back down to the elevator. We go down the elevator to the main lobby, and this is, packed. We're going through the main lobby with all these people. I'm still holding this IV pole, and he's pushing me through, and we're weaving out of all kinds of people. We get to the other wing, get to the elevator. We go upstairs the elevator, and again, go down the hallway to the nurse's station, drop off my records. Then they push me a little bit further down the hallway to my room. He brings me to my room, and I'm sitting on the bed, and a nurse comes in, and she's like, Mr. Murphy, I just need to take your vitals, and then I'll let you get some rest. I'm like, oh, thank you. So she comes in, and she takes my blood pressure and does the pulse ox, where they measure the oxygen level in your blood by putting this little thing on your finger. And then she goes, okay, I'm gonna I'll take your temperature, and then you can go to bed. So I'm like opening my mouth and kind of leaning towards her, giving her my ear too, because some hospitals they put it in your ear, some they give it to you in the mouth, to take your temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like leaning into her, my mouth open, giving her my ear, just figured, let's get it over with. And she's like, I'll be right back. I have to get a rectal thermometer. I'm like, a what? She's like, I have to get a rectal thermometer. The note says, that I have to use a rectal thermometer. I'm like, what note? What note? What doctor said you had to take a rectal? She's like, no, there's a note on your IV pole. It says, when taking temperature, must use rectal thermometer. That's my freaking brother wrote a sign and hung it on my IV pole, so that here I am. And I tell this whole story because here I am. I'm going through like the main lobby holding this pole, and people probably looking at me like, "Oh, that poor young man. He's not only is he not feeling well, but he has to have a rectal thermometer.
He's got to get probed."
Yeah, that was my stupid brother. So you asked me how I transitioned. That's exactly how I transitioned. There's no other way around it. I have to go through. Yeah.
Oh, that's asinine to say that.
Yeah. So that's what I go through. Yeah, that's my brothers for you. They won't let me sit around and cause trouble. So that's yeah. He's the same one that when I was living at NYU, I had this crush on this one girl at NYU, and we had a big test coming up. So I got together with, there's probably about 8 of us that were in the program at the same time. There was like 3 guys and 5 women or whatever it was, but I said, come to my place. I had an apartment right on campus. I was like, come to my place, we'll study, we'll order pizza and stuff, and then call it a day. So the night before, my 2 brothers came in because I was having problems with my computer, and so they came in and we went and got something to eat, and then we came back to work on my computer. And before we left, I put some laundry in downstairs in the laundry room. So my brother John, of course, went downstairs to go get my laundry so that I could work on the computer with my other brother. And so they stayed and they left. They left that night. The next day, people were showing up for the study group. And the very first person that shows up, of course, is this girl that I have this crush on. And she walks in, and I was like, "Hey, let me just show you around." It was a studio apartment. It's like, here's the kitchen, there's the bathroom, there's the living quarters. And she's like, it looks like someone's getting some action. I'm like, oh yeah, right. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, it looks like you had a party over here. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, all the bras hanging on your wall. I'm like, what are you talking about? My brother went around the room and hung. I didn't, Ken being blind, you can't see this stuff. He hung like 12 bras on lampshades and on picture frames, and
oh shoot.
My God, here I am trying to impress this young lady, and now she thinks, I'm like, oh, there goes any shot I had with her. Yeah. There's bras and condoms all over the place. Unbelievable. So, but that's what I love that. It's fun. It makes you gotta laugh. You gotta have some fun. And, yeah.
That's good stuff, man. You know what? That's what life's about, man. You live some, you get knocked down on your butt a little bit, you get up, you laugh some, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful when you think about all the experiences that you go through and the life lessons learned, and know that in the midst of all that, there are opportunities for one to laugh, even in the midst of a storm, man. Hey, why not?
No, you're right. It's you got to be able to laugh. You got to be able to sing and laugh. Even if you can't sing, you just got to sing a song, because that's what I do. I got a lousy voice, but I love music, and that's like my outlet. That's how I if I'm in a bad mood, put music on, and it just can change your whole attitude.
And believe me, he listens to all types of music.
That's right. Yeah. Everything.
He does. He gets down with it all.
Well, not like Mo. Mo's the man, but I got. He's got me hooked on Morgan Heritage now, so now I've been buying his stuff. It's good
That's right,
stuff.
baby.
Yeah, it's good
Good
stuff.
stuff. Good stuff. But
All right.
I think we'll leave under that positive note, man, and I'll leave the viewers with those two awesome stories. You know, let them exit stage left with a big smile on their face as we
Yeah.
conclude this episode of Endless Possibilities, folks. And again, I want to subscribe. Wow. I want to remind you guys to subscribe and hit that bell, thumbs up, love us, like us, share us, and feed us to anybody that you feel could be accommodated to in terms of this channel, this podcast. Because remember, we are ENT Hooligans. We are the entertainment hub for all. I'm Baby Moy, and I'm not the one who's going to close out the show. I'm going to let the professor here leave us with a couple of words of wisdom, and then I'm going to play the music and fade out and leave into the sunsets. So, Prof!
Well, Mo, thanks again for having me. Thank you, Hooligans, for inviting me into your respected club here. I'm gonna end the show just like I used to every class, and I used to tell my students, have a great weekend, but remember, no glove, no love.
See ya!